Hello again. Doug and I are back here with the aircraft. It has now been 16 months since we coated the airplane. I just want to point out some things to you. Doug and I would like to show you. We polished these leading edges 16 months ago, and I have not touched this leading edge nor the aircraft. Just want to point out a couple of things. The gloss that remains on the polished leading edge, once we coated it, it has stayed that way. And the aircraft now has an additional 100 flying hours on it through all kinds of weather, at altitude up to above 40,000, and also on the ground on a very hot ramp. But I want to show you a couple of things. I just rinsed the airplane off, or we just rinsed the aircraft off, and I want to show you the beading on the aircraft. This is important. Not only, I did not scrub this, I just hosed it off and all the dirt went away. But more importantly, I'd like to show you how the water is beading. And that beading, it leaves no water spots, none. So the aircraft doesn't have to be wiped off. It will leave, see what the water did? Look at that. It leaves no water spots, which is important to me.
I think the only way you've cleaned this is just strictly rinsing it with water, no soap, no scrubbing, nothing. It's even holding up well on the exhaust of the jet engine, which we'll probably get around and show you a little bit later. And if you remember right, this paint job was pretty much shot. It was ready to go in to get repainted. Even the de-icing boots are holding up extremely well, and they were really bad, if I remember right, Randy.
They were starting to get pretty dry. And interesting thing about icing, since we're talking about it, Doug, is I noticed a characteristic of what the Ceramlock does. When the leading edge builds up with ice, it still will build up with ice, but now it will build up, and because of its inability to adhere to the rubber, it only builds up less than an 1/8 inch and then starts breaking off, even without turning the boots on, because it has nothing to grab onto, no surface friction or porosity in it. It's like the water beads not being able to stay on it. The ice can't stay on the leading edge anymore. It will build up very slightly and then just break off.
How did that work when you were telling me a while back you had it up to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and they got in a plane and it was covered with snow and taxiing out? Go ahead and tell them that story.
I was in Jackson Hole and snowing and just taxiing out. It was just short of freezing rain and snow. Nothing adheres to it. Start taxiing, a little bit of wind, all went away. Just as you see the water go away, snow does the same thing. Nothing will stick to it. And everybody asks me about this when I go somewhere and it's raining and they say, gee, nice wax job. I said, no, this is not wax. Oh, what kind of silicone wax is it? No, it's not silicone, it's a ceramic. People do not understand that this is not wax or silicone. This is a ceramic, and that's what makes it different. That's why 16 months later we're still looking at it beading as it is. Again, talking about the surface tension, this is why we've increased and have shown a performance increase over the 100 hours flown the aircraft now, of why we have a performance increase. Bugs don't stick to it, water doesn't stick to it, ice doesn't stick to it. The coefficient of friction is clearly lower throughout the entire aircraft, and that's where we've picked up that few percent of performance on the aircraft. And Doug, maybe you want to mention something also.
Well, I think one of the next step we want to do is apply this on some bigger jet aircraft and try to quantify exactly how much of a performance increase we're getting with it, i.e. Reduced fuel consumption. But clearly, I would say owner could expect at least an 80% reduction, maybe more, in cleaning costs, which is huge. But just the way this thing looks is outstanding after 16 months.
And again, one of the reasons for making this video, it doesn't matter what one says, it doesn't matter what one believes, it's what it does that counts. And this is the bottom line of it after 16 months. For you to see just by spraying water on it, what it does. And
well, this has also been in a lot of salt air environments. Rainy flies over into the Bahamas quite often with this, and of course we're right next to the ocean.
just want to point out too, the intake was also done 16 months ago when we polished it and coated it. It's had 100 hours of flight time on it, and through rain, snow, up to altitude at 50 below, down on the surface and hot surface, and that's how it looks 16 months later.